What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today we're back bringing you 40 facts on Warhammer 40K fan lore. And this one is called the Concordian Reclaimers. So again, guys, if you guys have your own 40K lore that you want to send it to us, and we can make a video out of it. Now, we don't always get to these right away because we do get quite a bit of these fan lores. So the thing to do is either send it to us via message on our Facebook page, or you can email it to us at onemindsyndicate1@gmail.com. That is onemindsyndicate, the number 1 @gmail.com. It's best if you guys can provide us with pictures, that way we get more of a thematic feel to your army, because of course if you, let's say you're creating your own Tau Sept, and your Sept is like orange and like neon green or something like that, chances are that color scheme, we won't be able to find it in other images. So if you guys have a picture of your own models, or if you guys are an artist, something like that, that'll greatly enhance the whole thematic essence of your army. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into this lore on the Concordian Reclaimers. So the Concordian Reclaimers are on the world of Concordia, which is located on the far edges of the Segmentum Obscurus, and it is one of 5 worlds in the Andor system. It plays rule to the combined numbers of men that make up the system's regiment, the Reclaimers. The regiment is made up of 5 different groups of men and women, each from one of the system's world. In the months following the fall of Cadia, a Dauntless-class cruiser by the name of Cadia's Fang entered warp space in an attempt to flee their now-dead world. They had set their course for their holy world, but their injured navigator sent them aimlessly into the warp. They emerged 4 months later, broken, battered, and unsure where they were. The Inquisitor on board ordered the ship to land on the closest habitable world. Any chance of a safe landing was all but impossible. However, their landing gear and below-altitude steering had been completely destroyed. Their only hope now was to pray to the Emperor that they survived this crash. With the force of 1 billion tons of steel, the ship crashed into the world's surface. Hundreds of men and women fled the burning wreckage, while hundreds more burned alive after being trapped under these tons of melting metal. As if a blessing from the God Emperor himself, an army of emergency personnel assisted the injured, and they helped free survivors that were still inside the craft. After many days of rest and recuperation, the survivors were welcomed to this world by their planet's lord. The Lord of the world welcomed the Inquisitor to his world of Concordia, and offered him and his people refuge. The Inquisitor tried to recall the world's name, but nothing came to him. He had learnt every name of every planet in the Imperium. However, this one he never knew. The Lord explained how the system had nothing to do with the Imperium, opting to take an isolation approach. The Lord told of a chapter of Space Marines finding the system, and how the Lord's people were forced to exterminate these alien invaders. The Inquisitor demanded the worlds convert to Imperial cult, or else face the fury of the Imperium. The Lord was not frightened by these words, and instead explained the superiority of his system's combined weapons, and how an invasion would only result in the deaths of the Inquisitor's men. This lie worked, and the Inquisitor was forced to stop using these threats. Seeing the Lord would only respond to reason, the Inquisitor gave his reasons and opinions on why the system must fall under the Imperium's rule. But each point he made was shot down by logic, and even the Inquisitor couldn't argue with this. After about a week on conversing, the Inquisitor and the Lord struck a deal. In exchange for keeping the system a secret, the system must offer 1 Imperial Guard regiment to fight in the God Emperor's name, and must teach the Imperial cult like it would any other religion. The agreement was reached, and both sides of the bargain were honored. Men came from each world and traveled to Concordia. There they were trained by the Cadians that remained on this world. The commissars and regimental commanders found themselves at odds with the men while discussing future battles. These men refused to fight in wars of invasion, but they would gladly fight in wars to reclaim lost human worlds. The commanders eventually agreed and began the training. The Blue Barons. Hailing from the ocean world of Costner, the Blue Barons make up the majority of the Reclaimers' personnel. The world is 92% water, and the little land masses that there are used to farm meat and vegetables. The majority of the population live in large underwater domes, and as such do not get the right amount of sunlight that the surface dwellers usually would get. These large amounts of swimming that each Kostan does enhances their leg muscles. They are harder and stronger than their off-world battle brothers. Eager to escape their world, these men train on what little land that isn't used for farming. These men have almost instinctive habit of springing into battle to gain as much ground as possible. Their speed in combat has often caught the Eldar off guard, and has allowed fellow soldiers to fill up the large amounts of space left in their wake. The Blue Barons' tactics are simple in nature. Charge up as fast as you can, and as soon as the first man is killed, duck down and begin firing. Though this tactic may seem foolish and risky, it has proven time and time again to be the most effective way of seizing ground. When in battle, the Blue Barons will wear Khedian-style armor, but painted blue across, all instead of green. Their tanks and transport are painted the same color, so to indicate which vehicles to be deployed first. Next up, we have the Trinian Red Reapers. The world of Trinia has acted as the Andor system's capital world for over 8 millennia, and has had to quell many uprisings during that time. However, in the 20th millennium, the largest uprising in the system's history occurred. Riots involving millions of people erupted all over Concordia, Tenebris, and even Trinia itself. With the armies of Concordia and Tenebris joining in the revolts, Trinia's High Council knew that it didn't have any manpower to stop this uprising. As opposed to bargaining with these rioters and rebels, a new army was drafted. It was to be made up of all the serial killers and sociopaths the world could muster. This army was to be called the Red Redeemers. 2,000 men were given weapons and training, and told to obey the orders given. During the first 10 seconds of being handed a gun, a convict usually turned on one of the guards. The gun didn't fire, and with a tisk, the company commander pressed a small button wired into his wrist. The convicts would then scream in agony as the insides of themselves slowly melted. The screams demoralized the rest of the convicts into complete submission, and from then on, the button would be never pressed again. On their first mission, the Red Redeemers were sent into Concordia's capital city to stop the rioters by any means necessary. It was recorded that within 15 minutes of being in the capital, the order was given and the Red Redeemers opened fire. By the end of the firing, 4,000 were dead and 6,000 were injured. The final order before they were to leave that area and to move on to the next was to execute all survivors. This continued on for 3 decades until the riots were eventually quelled. By the end, the name Redeemers was replaced with Reapers, and the total number of deaths were literally impossible to tally, but the event still stays within the Red Reapers as an event to look up to. In this present day, the Red Reapers are no longer drawn from prisoners, but from soldiers that show an unusual amount of sociopathy. As a part of each Red Reaper's training, he must show an obedience to his orders and to not let emotions or fear get in the way. A common practice among the commanders is to put an android in front of the recruit to test his will. Oftentimes, this android would look like a small child or an injured animal. The order would be to slowly cut a body part off while ignoring the android's cries. If done correctly, the recruit has removed the ordered body part. This recruit will be dismissed and will go on the rest of his life, thinking that he had just murdered a small child or animal. But if the recruit were to fail, the test would be revealed and he would no longer be able to apply to become a Red Reaper. By the end of the recruit's testing, he would have become a highly disciplined soldier who lacks any emotion or conviction. He would have mastered the weapons he is given, and he has learned quickly to adapt to any environment he would be placed in. The High Council knew that these soldiers would eventually break down from the trauma of war. However, they devised a way to combat this. After each mission, the men would undergo a procedure called psychic dumbing. This act would erase any regret from the men's mind and allow them to function for further missions. This procedure is administered by having the men describe every detail of their mission while zapping the brain with minor electric shocks. And finally, we will end this lore by talking about their commanders. So the first and only regiment of the Concordian Reclaimers is led mainly by one man, and that man is Commander Dante Host. Born on Trinia, Host was inducted into the Officio Perfectus at a young age, and he became a commissar by the time he was 20. When fighting with his men, he opts to ditch the standard attire worn by the commissars, and instead chooses to wear the uniform of a regimental commander. His left face is decorated with a tomoko, given to him by Chief Tain Warhammer after beating him in hand-to-hand combat. As a sign of respect, the chief awarded Host with the tomoko of honor. Now Host's more famous act has garnered him much scorn from the Ordo Hereticus. This act involves exposing a captured Chaos cultist to the full power of the warp, turning him almost completely into a demon. He will bring the cultist into the battlefield against the ruinous powers and wait for him to start to seethe and convulse. If the cultist remains inert, Host will order his men to continue to march forward. But if the cultist starts to twitch and shake, he will order his men to hold their position and prepare for battle. This method has proven to be effective against Chaos soldiers and demons alike. Now Host's regimental commander outfit is the standard color, although his shoulder pads, shin guards, and cap are painted red to match the Red Reapers that he uses as his command squad. And with that, guys, that completes our 40 facts on the Concordian Reclaimers. So as always, guys, let us know down in the comments below what you guys think about this 40K fan lore. It's pretty interesting stuff. I don't know, it's like, it reminds me of an Imperial Guard, however more brutal, almost chaotic, because like the way they train them, the way they condition them is pretty crazy stuff. But anyway, guys, again, let us know what you guys think about Nathan's army down below. If you guys want more lore, if you guys want some questions answered, again, comment them down below, and hopefully Nathan will answer your questions. Don't forget, guys, that we do these fan lores I wouldn't say pretty often, but we've done quite a bit. So far, we've got a playlist going, so if you want to check more fan lores, go to our playlist section and check them out. Now, if you guys want other topics, let us know also down below in the comments as to what other 40K topics you want us to talk about. And as always, I'm the Sound Alchemist, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.